Pretty much everyone I know is incredibly high potential. And the irony with this is that they want to do their best so much that they fear if they get something wrong, they'll be branded a failure. And I really believe in this idea of giving our best selves into the world. And that's really what inspired me to launch FOF. Because I believe that if you're not moving out of your comfort zone, you're not learning, you're not growing, you're not getting better, and you're basically giving up. And I don't pay that. Because ever since I was a kid, I strongly believe that no matter your station at birth, you have the opportunity to break free from economic oppression and improve your life. And I know this because I watched my parents do it. My mum was born in the Philippines as one of 7 kids, and they struggled. And my dad was born in the Depression, and he had to knock off school when he was 11 years old to go and work on the farm for 7 sixpence a week. And growing up, people would humiliate them because they had a lack of money and education. So they vowed to forge a better life for themselves and their family, and instilled in me the value of education and drive. They taught me that not to let anybody to tell me what I could and couldn't do because of my class, race, or gender. And importantly, they taught me never to give up. I grew up in a country town in Western Australia called Geraldton. And Gero is about as bogan as it gets. It has 30,000 people and almost as many Holden Monaros. And as a kid, I defined myself as a true blue, dinky-dye Aussie chick. I played Aussie rules footy, I spent a lot of time on farms, and I listened to legendary Aussie rockers, Frenzal Rhomb. But the way that people saw me was very different to how I saw myself. And when Pauline Hanson launched her maiden speech in the 90s, Mum and I experienced firsthand just how bogan Gero could get. And being reduced to a racial stereotype was infuriating, and I wanted nothing more than to prove my detractors wrong. And I could because I was relatively okay at school, but importantly, I was obsessive. And I hoarded achievements. I got into law school, and for a decade I worked in law and investments and corporate strategy. But the thing with being obsessive is that you can take it too far. I turned being successful into my identity. So that means if I made a mistake or failed in any way, I wouldn't see that as a flaw in the process, but rather a flaw in myself. And I would feel that every failure proved my detractors right. So instead of turning success into this tool to emancipate me from racial, gender, class stereotypes, it actually became this yardstick by which I measured my own shortfalls against the perceived capabilities of others around me. And because I'm a masochist, I would chase those challenging roles. And in those roles, I'd feel like an imposter because, of course, I didn't have the same experience as my peers at that level. And put a lot of pressure on myself and became very anxious, which is why I think that Beyond Blue is such a worthy recipient of tonight's proceeds. My last corporate assignment was in the senior leadership team of an ASX fund manager, and I was asked to lead an enterprise strategic program in which I had no track record, and my fear of failure was high. But that time, I did something different. I asked for help, and unexpected things happened. People started opening up to me, and I forged really unlikely alliances. And my team, even though we were outsiders, ended up outperforming in all of our milestones for that year. And I learned that failure and success really weren't mutually exclusive events. Failures were just tests, and the point wasn't to avoid it, but rather keep punching whenever you encountered one. What we learned was that we didn't need to be perfect, just relentless. My fear of failure has held me back for pursuing my entrepreneurial streak for years. But last Friday, I left the corporate world. Hello. I intend to use my decade of legal and corporate experience to help socially conscientious ventures to go to the next level. I used to think that a fear of failure was the domain of the insecure or the incapable, but actually it signals really high achievement and execution orientation. Because growth-minded, ambitious people want to do their best work and give their most back, and they won't let anything get in their way, including failure. So tonight I ask you, instead of asking each other, what do you do? Try to ask each other, what would you do if you couldn't fail? And instead of putting up walls, let's connect and try and discover the infinite potential in others and ourselves.